Hey, what's up guys? On this week's episode I'm gonna make a custom April action figure from the Last Ronin comic book series that's ongoing for 2 more issues at this point. So first, it's a 1987 April, and I'm gonna mix her with the Terminator figure, and I have that other guy just in case because he's the same size as April, but April is a 4-inch and the Terminator Salvation guy is a 6-inch, so it's going to be tough to put them together. And I've never done anything like this. I don't usually take the toys apart before I paint them and do whatever I do to them. But nothing was coming apart easily, so I had to break out the Dremel plastic cutting tool and a couple pairs of pliers to pry everything apart. Yeah, his head, the legs are off. Now the arms are finally off. April's still not totally off or apart, but I moved on to sculpting his feet to be more of a woman's foot. So I'm gonna take off as much as I can and make it a little more pointy, and then I take off, there's like a sole extra lip at the bottom, so that'll make it a little bit shorter. Now I'm cutting off April's bottom bits that are left, because the legs, one leg was already off when I got the toy, and the other one I just pulled off while I was trying to take it apart. So now I'm trying to pry April apart and get all the last pieces out. I'm drilling into the hole. That's with the Dremel, scalpel. I use pretty much every tool I have, but I got frustrated and I moved on to the leg part. So I'm trying to see if I can get that to the right size for April to fit just right into that peg that's there. But I couldn't, so I cut it off instead. And I'm still trying to take April apart, but the hot water isn't really doing anything. She's a really hard plastic, so I'm trying to cut where the glue line is with a scalpel. So I thought maybe it'll loosen the glue a bit, the hot water, but the scalpel, now I try to saw, then I'm back to the scalpel, then a screwdriver, pliers and a screwdriver. Nothing's coming out. I figure maybe if I take off the arms it'll be easier. But yeah, I go through a lot to try and make these toys. This like flat scalpel thing seemed to do the best job, but I just stabbed myself in the hand with the pliers there. That wasn't fun, but I took a breath and moved on until finally I'm getting closer. Oh, and it popped off. The head landed right there. The rest of it, no, that's not in the coffee. If you saw earlier, some foam went in my coffee. Oh no, that hasn't happened yet. Shit. I moved on. It's the next day, and I found the other piece later that night. So I'm starting to sand the shoulders to try and make them a little more feminine and fit better with the torso of April. So I sand this for a long time and mostly use the Dremel. Now I'm just checking the size, and that was my reference from the 2003 series, because the comic looks like it's mostly based on that series, or at least visually more than any of the other series is that happened. So she keeps popping in there to take a look at what I'm doing. Now it just went in my coffee. That I thought it happened before and I missed it, but no. So it's like a 2mm foam I'm using to go in the middle of the 2 halves of the torso, because I need to thicken it out a bit to fit the arms and to fit better with the hips and legs. Now I move on to her head. So she has the wrong hairstyle right off the get-go, so I sand that, and I'll get to more of that later.
The next day.
Now it's the next day again. Oops, I just touch the microphone. So I'm getting ready to do more work on her head. That's what she looked like before. I'm sanding off now. Those are nail files, and I just cut it so that I could sand off her eyelashes, because they're very big and 80s, 90s. I don't know, not the look I'm going for. That's more the look I'm going for. Now I have a little flesh color that I'm just trying to get rid of some of the shine that's on her and bring out some of the details that I cut into with the scalpel. I'm cutting 3 little pieces of wire that I'm going to glue to her head, because she has a wild hairdo. It's just, you know, kind of going everywhere in the comics. So to recreate that, I just put a couple strands sticking out. Now, before I do too much to her head, that's Donnie for the next video. It's going to be the dark turtle. I'm painting her eyes green, because in the comic she has green eyes, but this figure, she has blue eyes. Now I'm just using a toothpick. I use a toothpick to just get the eyes. Now I'm using a different toothpick to just put a little bit of spackling onto her hair, and I'm using a comb to get the texture and grooves to make it look like hair. So I mixed a little bright red and orange to get my first layer of color that's going to cover the spackling and old hair. Usually start with the darker and then go lighter, but I'm going to give it a wash later, so I'm just trying out the brightest color first. Let that dry. Now I mixed a little bit of a darker red just to do some touch-ups in some spots. Now it's the next day again. I need to make her arms shorter, but I don't want to cut them, so I figured I'd make her hand shorter, so I'm cutting off the fingertips to make it more of a woman-sized hand, I suppose. Now I'm sanding up the suit and some stuff to get ready to be put together. Not the suit, the chest, torso parts. Now I'm just putting a little bit of super glue and spreading it around, because I don't want it to get into any of the joints, like where the arms and the neck will be. And I move my arm to gesture and neck, but that time I move my neck, my face. Anyway, I put a small piece of foam just bigger than the hole, so that now I'm cutting a piece of little steel rod and gluing that to the foam I stuck in. Now, clean that up. That I put another little piece of foam. No, I glued the piece of foam into her, and that's the piece that went in my coffee. So I glued it to that, but then the piece in the leg is loose, so she can still kind of move, articulate at the waist. And I put a little bit of spackling on her shoulders to fill in some of the cracks that were there. Well, the one crack on each side. Now that's some more 2mm foam that I'm just making her old clothes into a jacket to look like in The Last Ronin. And it also has a big collar. That's what she looked like before. Eventually it'll come up what she's gonna look like, or hopefully gonna look like. You have to wait and see, or you could just fast forward. But now I'm using spackling to clean up all those cracks. Then I let it dry, sanded it, and now I'm covering her jacket and boots with a gray primer. Now I left that to dry, and I'm trying to get the color for a jacket. It's a yellowish, but it's darker, almost like a yellow-brown leather. But I didn't make it big enough the first time, so I'm just adding 2 little pieces to extend her jacket flaps. And then I'm using a little spackling to fix those new cracks that I put in. And then let that dry overnight. It only takes 15 minutes, but I decided I'm gonna have to paint her pants to better match the I didn't want to, because they're cool and they're camo, but in the picture I'm going off, she has like brown leather pants and a yellow leather jacket. I don't know that it's leather, but I have trouble saying leather, so I got it right that time. Well, now the final coat on her jacket, it's like an orangish, brownish yellow. It's what she looked like before. She's almost done. I'm putting a flesh color on her hand. Yeah, this hand, because that's how she has it in the comic. And then a quick clear coat, and now the wash. And so mostly I'm gonna get it in the hair, because I was planning to darken the hair all along in secret. Not really a secret, but a little on her face, and then just wipe it off. I used a Q-tip to wipe it off her face because I only put a little and I didn't want a lot to stay. Yeah, a little more wash on the pants, bring out some of the details. And so that's what I was going for, and now she's done. So thanks a lot for watching, and I want to thank everyone who's been with me so far, and everyone new, and until next time, always keep your head up. Peace.